In this video, we'll create a fast-paced 3D Instagram reel like this, and someone sent this to me and I thought it was so amazing. I think it looks so cool and it really grabs your attention, so we'll create that today. Like always, you can download the assets in the description down below. Now let's jump into it. We'll create a composition, just make sure that it's vertical 4K, and you can do that by changing these values. So width 2160 by height 3840, 25 frames a second, and that's all cool. You can also change the duration here, of course, if you want to, and then you can import your footage that you have. Now let's first look at our example. This is the inspiration and I really love his style. Shout out to Kold. I think his reels are amazing. I do check him out, and also for inspiration, of course. Now first we see a film burn or lens flare. That's not that special. You can just download a transition like that and overlay it. Then we see some text animation, and this is already quite cool. Just text that comes in basically really harsh. It has a glow on it and there is a scale on this whole layer. Now here you can see a text animation going from blurry to sharp, and also what we see is that the text has a texture on it, which is the basically the iPhone blueprint. I think that's such a creative detail and I think that's really cool. Then again, there's a transition overlay on this, and then there is a 3D animation to a iPhone, and basically some images are stacked, and again, a really cool effect. Then we go into this animation with text and iPhone, and then this is the 3D effect where it zooms out and basically shows all these cool layers of text. Moves over to the right, and again we see this blueprint and some text animation. Now I trimmed this reel because this reel is even longer and that doesn't fit in this tutorial. First, I'm importing some footage of mine. I'll just scale it so it's fully filling the screen. Beautiful. It's always weird to see yourself. So let's first insert some assets. Now again, you can download these for free, but you can also look up film burns, organic film burns, film stock overlay. There's a lot of these things on YouTube. This one is quite cool, so it's really easy, guys. You just throw it over and just make sure the blending mode is on screen. So click on normal and then click on screen, and then it's an overlay, and then you can just scale it so it's the right size. And then we can also scroll through so it starts at the beginning like this. Maybe I like the second one even more, and then we'll just move it over and then hold Alt and then the right bracket to make sure that it ends here. Then I have another broken film overlay or text overlay with some text in it. You can always set a in point in your footage, set an out point in your footage, and then you just import it. And as you can see, it already has the in points and out points. A really nice way to make things quicker. Change the blending mode to screen, and again, same thing, scale it up so it covers the whole image. And this is great for the next transition. So I'm just going to move this over, and I'm going to create a new camera by going to Layer, New Camera. Make sure it's a one node camera, and you can change the preset to a certain preset. For example, I like the 50mm, and then just press OK and press OK. Now these film layers are fine. I don't have to make those 3D, but I would like to make my image or video 3D so I can add some motion later on. I'm just gonna make it 3D and then go into the camera, and then you can just press P for position and scale it a bit in the beginning, move it in. And later on we can always change the keyframes, but we'll just add a bit of motion. You can always right click it, keyframe assistant, and easy ease to make it a bit more smooth. Then here we can add our text. So text here now. Let's make it a bit bigger so you can see the text, and I'm gonna align it to the center. Now to animate this text, you can do a couple things. By the way, this is a beautiful still. I'm just gonna move it over a bit. So what you can do is, of course, separate the text, but this takes time. And also if you want to change this later on, you don't want that. You can just open this and then press animate, and then opacity. Open the range selector and open advanced. Now I'm gonna change the smoothness to 0. And what happens now if you change the ending, you can animate the text in. Just make sure that the opacity is set to 0 too. You can also use this as a sort of typewriter effect, but we're gonna use it to make all the words visible. So change the mode or based on to words. And if I now animate the start, you'll see that it will animate the text in. Now this works really well because we can just press start and just move it over and then change it to 100%. And you can change these keyframes. What's nice about this is you can really time it well, because when you press U on your keyboard and then when you go into your footage, you go into their audio waveform, you can see where the waveforms are. And you can really dial it in how the text animates in. Now I also have a iPhone blueprint here. I'm just going to import that quickly to show you how to make sure that it only goes over the text. Toggle switches mode, make sure the text is above the layer, and then change the alpha matte to the text. And as you can see, the blueprint is now an overlay on the text. Now, if you think this is too harsh, you can even put on a tint to change the black. For example, I can change the black to maybe a bit more gray, or even if you want to be creative, change it to blue. Especially with images like this, you can really make it creative by changing the colors to something that you really like. Now, if we go back to our example, you do see that the camera position is moving constantly. Not only that the text is also 3D. We can really fix that easily by just making sure the text is 3D, so there's also motion in that, and making sure the camera position is moved out so you can really see that there's movement from the beginning, including the text. Now, one more thing that you do see in the example too is that the iPhone text is first blurry. Now, what I'm trying to do is really teach you how to do this and giving you the tools. That's also why I'm not going too much in depth. But how I would do this is, for example, I would just add a Gaussian blur to the text and then animate that by pressing the keyframe, pressing U to show all the keyframes, and then just moving it over and then making it blurry. And as you can see, then the text becomes blurry, and then you copy this effect over to the blueprint, making sure that that one also is first blurry and then sharp. Now again, of course, film above everything, so it goes over the text. And then when we go back to our example, we can see this cool effect. He has a film effect over his footage, and then it just hard cuts to this iPhone zooming out. Now, a lot of this is just text, not even with crazy animation, so I won't explain that, but I will explain this transition. And you can create this effect with everything, as long as you can align an image with something, for example, a window or even cars, and aligning them on the same line. I think it's really cool. And you don't even have to have PNGs. For example, I have two images here. Just press T for transparency, so we can align them really well. And then what you do is, of course, make them 3D, turn on the transparency, then we select all the layers under this, we'll hit Alt and then bracket to make sure that all the footage is cut off, except the camera, of course. We need to have that longer than this. And of course, make sure your film burn is above everything. I'm just gonna turn the images off so we can see what's happening. And then, for example, we turn the first image on. Then a couple frames later, we'll turn the second one on. Then we'll press P for position. I'm gonna move this keyframe over and I'm gonna select both the images for the iPhone, press P for position again, and I'm gonna move it really close. If you hold Shift, you can make sure that it's really close. Then we can even move them around if you're not happy with the spacing. Now go back to our camera, and as you can see, there's a keyframe here. That's really cool, because what we can do now is when we see the iPhone images, we can hold Shift and zoom out. Let's see how that looks like. And you have exactly the same effect. Now, of course, you need more images to really sell the effect, but this is how you do it. Now, going back to our example, here you can see a PNG or with a white image, and again, some text behind it, and a couple other iPhones. And again, text behind it. Now again, just text that comes in. What I do think is really cool is this grid effect, and I can show you how to create that really easy. And then of course the zoom out, which I think is amazing, which of course I will also show. First the grid, go to layer new and then solid, and then just a white solid. Press OK, and then just add the grid effect to this layer. Just make sure the anchor point is really close, and you can always copy these values over. And then you can keep it like this, or if you want to have it as an overlay over everything, then you can also change the blending mode to none. And this will make it translucent. Let's say we create another solid, again white, and we put it under it. And let's say we have the iPhone image over it. You'll get something like this. If you're not happy with the effect, you can always press T for transparency and dial it down to make it a bit less obvious. Or you can always, of course, change the border size to make it like a thin grid, or of course also change the anchor points to make it even thinner so you barely can see anything. This is really tripping me out, by the way. You can also feather it down like I did, so it fades a bit into the image. And this is a really creative effect that you can use on all your projects. Now for the blog post, we can just go to a website, and this is a really smart trick. If you want vertical content, it's always good to put it in vertical mode. And then you can just screenshot this, then just add it to your project. We need to scale it up a bit, make it 3D, then press R for rotation. Of course, we're gonna rotate it a bit. Press P for position again, making sure it's really close to the camera. Move it up a bit, and then you can always change the mode to multiply. And this will make a white background transparent. I'm just gonna make sure that the position is so far that you can't see the layer yet. So again, just hold Shift to move it down, then press P on the camera, and then we'll just go a bit further and again, move it to the back like this. Now this is really cool. And then you can just add the other one. In this case, we can, for example, duplicate this, press P for position, move it also really to the front, press R for rotation, move it to the other side, and then you can just move it around like this. And it's a really cool effect, as you can see. Now, of course, you'd like to know how to highlight the words, just like in our example. And you do this by pre-composing them. Command Shift C, make sure that leave all attributes is selected, press OK. And then what you do, you double click on it, and here we see our layer just into the like it used to be. And now we can really easily select the rectangle tool, change the fill color to a certain color, for example, yellow. And then we can just create a shape over something that we want. Press T for transparency, or you can use the multiply option to just make sure that it applies on the white. And then I would just keyframe the scale, because that's the easiest way to do it. Just unlink the scale, go to the pen behind tool. Make sure that your anchor point is set on the left or right, depending on what you want, where to animate it from. I want it from the left, and then I can just animate it like this. You can even just type in 0. Let's see what it looks like. Perfect. Let's go back to our comp, and as you can see, looks really cool. Now there's another transition here. It moves the camera from the left to the right, and this is the same how we animated the camera the whole tutorial. Just make sure the motion blur is on, and then you can just move the positions camera. I will show you. And again, here is just a blueprint. I think even the same blueprint that we used before, and a text animation. And the same text animation, just different because it fades in. And you can do that by using the smoothness on 100%. Now let's see if we can use the blueprint and do the same effect. Go to toggle switches mode and make it 3D. Go to the position. I'm just gonna copy the position over from this blog post, and then I'll hold Shift and move it even further to the camera. Press R for rotation, and I'll make sure that it's a bit more to the right, maybe move it over a bit. Go to the position, move it more like this, something like this. I think this would look cool. Now when the camera is done moving in, you can do two things. You can just manually move the position to the right like this, or you can also use this tool, the pen under the tool, to move it around, whatever you like. Of course, make it a bit more quick, and like I said, make sure that the motion blur is set on everything. And then when you refine it a bit, you will get something like this. Don't forget to subscribe, and also don't forget to leave a comment. Also, if you have any questions, just leave them down below. Also, if you want to have something explained by me, also just leave it down in the comments. Then, like always, thanks for all the support, and I'll see you next time. Bye.